everybody, and welcome to another episode of Metal Mastermind. And today we have a return guest, and of course, hopefully, next time we ever do something like this, it'll be under better circumstances. But we have David Gnozzi from Mixbus TV. David, say hi.
Hello. Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody who's listening.
Oh my gosh. This week was definitely apocalyptic, to say the least. If you're watching this is January 11th. We're on a Saturday, and it was just pretty much shortly after all the fires started to happen here in LA. And, David, why don't you talk a little bit about your current situation? How has it affected you? How has it affected people around you? Let's start there.
Yeah, I think everything started something like 3 days ago, I think. And immediately, the whole city realized that this was going to be bad. The first fire started in the Palisades, I think. And after a few hours went from the size of a car, the size of a football field. And the winds, we got an alert for high winds, and that's where, everything went down. And in just a few hours, huge spaces and huge portions of land were on fire, and then, there was no stopping it. And I unfortunately, a lot of my friends, both in and out of the industry, lost their house. There are some illustrious names who lost their houses, not, for me to divulge. Some are public, some are not. And we will see in the next days, a lot of studios are gone here in LA. And it was bad. Me, I'm a kind of one of the lucky people, although we are in alert. I am in between two fires. So from my roof, I can see them both. And you would expect after 3 days that they were contained, and they're not. And then that's a pretty scary situation, because we are, considering what are we doing? Like, we're packing, or, it's a scary thought. It's definitely a scary thought. And yeah, I mean, for now, I'm lucky. For now, I'm far enough from the fires, but we're definitely keeping an eye on both.
Yeah, these things. My understanding in LA is pretty dry. Is it not? Right? There's not a lot of water reservoirs nearby. Yeah. And even the water supply has been sort of drained trying to put these fires out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get political on this, but there are facts that are out there that are indisputable. In LA, unfortunately, there have been huge budget cuts for the fire department. As far as I know, the recent one was about 20 mil, which is no joke. And the chief of the fire department was just now fired by the mayor of LA, simply because she said, yes, they failed me because my guys were going to the hydrants and there were no water in the hydrants. The Palisade reservoir of water, which is 117 million gallons of water, was empty and broken and has never been fixed. So there's, of course, there are things like you can stop wild winds, right? But also there are definitely human errors in this, and the whole thing could have been handled much better. And I think people here, I think people that are not from LA don't really understand the extent. Just to give you an idea, Malibu's gone. Palisades are gone. Like, no, it's not like a couple of dozens places. It's like 1,000 buildings here and there. Like, it's my friend Howie Weinberg, multi-awarded master engineer. So we are very, very close. And he lives in Laurel Canyon, which is not far from me. He had to evacuate last night. He sent me a text, and he had to leave his house, hoping for the best, and also his studio. with all the plaques and, historical records there and everything. And he was saying, like, I don't know if I'm going to go back to the house or not, if it's going to be there when I go back. And so, fortunately, it did. Fortunately, his area hasn't been affected. It was just a warning to evacuate just in case. And he went to the Palisades and he called me yesterday. He said, like, you don't understand. Like, it looks like they dropped an atomic bomb. That's how it looks. There's nothing left. So it definitely gives you
real
perspective.
Inferno, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, some of the folks that I know, or know through friends of mine too. Bob Clear Mountain, he lost his entire studio. I mean, that's already such a loss on its own. Rich Mouser also. There's a ton, like you mentioned. There's many studios, and this is in a way it's irreparable damage, because it's not just real estate. It's also memories and records, historical data that, I mean, Los Angeles is not like a Joe Schmo place. It's a mecca. So, you talk about destroying an entire city. I mean, this is one way to bring it to its knees, and it's horrible. I am so sorry. We've had in New York our own version of that when it came to like Hurricane Sandy, and we saw one of our own studios as well, like completely irreparable, and it had a Focusrite ISA. These sorts of things, I can't even like comprehend the amount of loss, especially like as a music producer too. Losing your studio is your line of work. It's also your sanctuary where you can, heal from anything going on in the world. And it's such a, oh my God, that's horrible. And
for many of us, it's not even just a job. It's our temple. It's our, it's our safe place. It's everything. It is heartbreaking. And like you said, many of these places have, I think Bob said that, when they left, they thought they would go back after a few days. So they grabbed a few things here and there. He mentioned he grabbed something that Bruce Wideen gave him. So like, you need to just think about, like, I know at least 5 studios here are gone without naming names, and the amount of, like, again, memories and priceless thing at this point that they could have been there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, I think we got to look at the positive, which is something like this could have been a lot worse as head counts. And although there have been, unfortunately, if you look at how the scenario, how the city looks right now, you would think this was a bombing, because it's so crazy. You see smoke sky high, you don't see the end of it. From where I am, I can see both, these 2 fires, and you just don't see the end of them. You see the curve of the freaking planet, and yet you don't see the end of the fire. It's
wow,
absolutely insane.
At this time, are planes still not flying out to LA?
The water planes, you mean? The firefighters planes?
No, commercial planes. Are there flights?
I'm not aware of that. I don't know. I think I've seen a couple of news footage, and you could see plane flying.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure some of them might have been canceled, but as far as I can tell, the air traffic it's going. You can see planes in the air here.
So have they been? And then when it came to water planes, have they just been flying water in to try and smoke out some of the things?
Yes. There's planes that as helicopters, and thank God these guys are out there busting their ass, and I think the whole city needs to be grateful for the firefighters, because they're really, I've seen some absolute precision water dropping that is like impressive, like, so these guys need a raise for sure. The thing is, for some reason, and I might be wrong, so don't quote me on that, there was some kind of problem, again, whether it's bureaucratic or not, asked for why the planes were not flying the first day and they were not dropping water, which of course you can imagine with super strong winds, it made the fires so much worse. The first 48 hours where the greatest destruction was. And I think the planes started flying and dropping water the second day.
Wow. I mean, it got so bad to a point where when people started to evacuate, they abandoned their cars, huh?
Yeah,
they were.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, because of traffic, and another thing that is very mismanaged in LA, and
True.
And there's so many people, and so when, of course, I understand on one hand, like, I understand, like, if I had to evacuate, I would, you want to evacuate when that's the last option, right? So you would wait as long as you can to try to save, to try to grab the more stuff that you can. And I think, that's what happened. And when the fire was so big that basically entire blocks of people started evacuating at the same time. And what happened is there was gridlock. Traffic was not going, and the fire started catching up to cars, which got on fire. So the firefighters were telling people, you need to abandon your car and go. And of course, what happened, that's such a crazy chain reaction, right? What happened is now the highways was really not going anywhere because all the cars were abandoned. And so they had to come in with bulldozers and bulldoze the cars away. So you lost your house, you lost your car. Like it's absolutely crazy. And it looked like a scene from those movies, it looked like the scenes from the movies that we all saw and never want to be in, and it was absolutely insane. And they're still doing it and still going on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I like New York City is such a populated place, and I can only imagine if something like that were to happen in Manhattan, it would be like totally end of the world, apocalyptic too. I mean, like LA, when I went to LA, in the past, it's always been, very congested, but, there always kind of felt like, I didn't really think it's maybe earthquakes, but like fires, I didn't really think it would come to LA like that. I thought that was more of a problem in Northern California, not necessarily in Southern California. But I mean, like Hollywood Hills, like I remember walking around Hollywood Hills while I was there, and I was, given the tour. I went to the observatory, and it's like, oh my gosh, like the Hollywood sign's on fire.
The Hollywood Hills are on fire. There was a new one started this morning, actually. And the Getty Museum as well. The Getty Museum had fire on the side of the hills. Yesterday they were trying to stop it, and it is Sunset. There was a fire on Sunset. Really, like literally, you could see it from Hollywood Boulevard, which is from the closer to me. Studio City. I had my friend Asuf from Polyverse. We were together two Saturdays ago, like last Saturday before the Saturday before the fires. We were together in, we went to Infected Mushrooms. We're playing here. Mm-hmm. They invited us. And 2 days after, he calls me like we are evacuating. He was in Studio City. That was day 2 or 3 of the fire. And another fire started in Studio City, which is in the city. Like you would never imagine that it would get this close. And
oh my God.
Talk about like fires in Hollywood Boulevard and the Hollywood Hills. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's not like even a thought.
No,
like no. Oh my God. I know you own also Bunker Studios. Is Bunker Studios okay?
Yes, we are still in pretty much the bunker is about 15 minutes from me. So we are kind of in the same situation. We are in between the two fires, and it's tense because, again, I'm probably more tense now than I was 2-3 days ago, because I see that you would think you see the fire that is far away from you and say like, oh, they have time to stop it, but they're not stopping it. And so as the day go by, you go like, damn, this thing is getting closer and closer, and it doesn't seem to stop. So we're still far enough, and my other studio is still far enough from it, but we're definitely like constantly checking live updates on YouTube or whatever we can get them to see how close it's what's happening.
Yeah, my heart goes out to you, man. I don't know what I would do. I mean, I guess you just really start really thinking about what's the most important stuff that you want to preserve, because that's all you really can do,
Yeah, it is.
And the most important thing is people, because things can burn away, history can go away, but people are we're living creatures, and we have to be there for each other. So I'm glad to hear that you and Bella are okay, and I hope that continues to stay the case.
Thank you.
And like I will stay in touch with you. Please, like, I want to know.
Absolutely, I will.
Like, I'm like kind of already like getting chalked up about this, because this is kind of like intense just to hear it.
Oh yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, that's not, it's not fair. It's absolutely not fair. That's got to be one of the most horrific things I've seen. I mean, like 2025, we were all like so excited. We're like quarter of the century into the 2000s, and it's like, no, this is starting off like crap.
Yeah, it started a little off. Yeah, for sure, especially here.
Now, not to mention that even like in the beginning of January on another year, we had another like total racksacking of Congress. So it's like January doesn't seem to be a very good month at all.
No, definitely. And
my gosh,
it's funny, and I say it's funny in an ironic way, but the first day of the fire, I was here mixing, and we had a 3.1 earthquake with the fires. So it was like, this might be the sign to leave LA, to be honest.
David, you keep making great music, so it's literally shaking and burning the world. So all jokes aside, no, that's that's horrific, and I'm so sorry to hear all of that. I actually, to everybody watching, we were planning on talking about studio construction today, and then all of this kind of happened, and yeah, I mean, geez, imagine like having a multi-million-dollar studio like someone like Bob Clear Mountain, and then just completely losing it all. I mean, like, what do you do after that? I mean, like, I can only, like, if I were Bob, I'd probably be like, maybe this is like a sign for me to retire, because like it's like so devastating of a loss that I would probably just be like, why even try again?
Yeah, so, I think I read something, a statement that Bob released, and I gotta say, the man has class, because of course he was thinking more about other people that are not as well off as he is, in his own words. And he said, like, I can survive. I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm worried for the other people that have studios like me, and they can't rebuild, or they don't have savings, and those people, we need to try to help them and stuff. So Bob is an amazing human being. Besides me, he's an amazing engineer, and he showed it even in a situation like this, where he lost the house, he and Betty, and it was awful, and yet still he was so graceful in his statement. I just read it this morning. And it's true. There's a lot of people who really lost everything, and we all know how there's already articles and a lot of reports about this. How the insurances here in California are an absolute freaking travesty, and many insurances has been canceled. We were talking about 75,000 insurances that was like canceled. They're not going to pay. Of course, they're not going to pay. This is a multi-billion-dollar disaster. I would not be surprised one bit if the insurance companies find a way to, get out of it without paying, or paying a tenth of what probably they should, which is awful.
Well, it's a systemic issue. We have not only is it insurance, but it's like you were mentioning too. It's also governmental. So the combination was bad. I heard back in March last year that there was an insurance company that canceled policies because exactly of the risks of what just happened now. And so people who didn't get the chance to, people, how could they get the chance? I was like, who are you going to go to be able to do something like cover the losses of this? And then there's another couple thousand people who lost their homes as well. Who's going to get it first? Who's going to get this, last? And it's like, is it going to be even enough to cover everybody? Because we all know companies like insurance companies, they're for profit. So do they have all that money in the bank? Probably not.
I don't think so. No. If you look at the Palisades now, if you look at the Palisades alone or Malibu alone, you realize they don't even have that kind of money. That is like one of those worst case scenario. Then you just hope, you as insurance, you just hope it never happens. But then it happened. Now now it's the time, unfortunately.
In mass too.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there's another problem. Like, even I was talking to some of my friends that lost basically everything. They were saying, like, even if let's say I have the money to rebuild, between when they give me the permit, they were talking about taking 1 year just to get the permit to clean up, and then you got to get the permit to rebuild. And then there's the investigation. So, like, they were looking at 4 years where you own a piece of land which is now ashes. And even if you do have the money to rebuild, you can't for the next few years. Now, multiply this for 10,000 buildings, just, that we know of that are being burned. This is like, I think we are going to really realize the extent of the devastation of these fire in about like 2 weeks or so, and like hopefully they will be gone, and we'll have an estimate, and it's going to be, I think, mind blowing.
I wouldn't put it past it. It could be even in to the point where like it can't be a place for creatives. It's
you can say it, because I thought it too. It could literally be kind of the end of LA. It could be.
Yeah, it very much feels that way, because if you're if even like movie studios and all this kind of stuff that burn to the ground, like, how are you going to be able to have, like, you're talking about the end of an industry in that area for exactly what you're saying. I mean, with having like 4 years to have to basically get back on your feet, like, how do you even earn income? It's like, that's already the biggest problem. And then of course these permits, and then restructuring, and the cost into all of that. That's insane. Geez. So
I want to say something, just for if there are musicians or studio owners that are looking for it, they could use this information. I don't have it in my profile, but I know that Korn's guitarist had posted on his Instagram profile, so that's the easiest one to find that I can think of. So it's the guitarist from Korn. He posted, and many others posted. There's an association here in LA that is giving
music cares.
Might be, that is giving like aids to musicians that are, they have lost everything. There's food stamps. There's some sort of monthly cash, that is given. So people who, it's good to share this, and for people who needs it,
Yeah, we're gonna put a link in the description below regarding that. I believe the Reporting Academy is also involved in making this happen.
Which is commendable, because we know that us in the music industry, we don't have a union. We're fucked. We don't have like pensions. We don't have it. We only have each other, so when something like this happens, it coming together as much as we can is positive. I'm lucky enough again to be okay and to be on my feet, but I know that others probably are not in the same situation. So definitely let's put links around and
absolutely
and help what we can.
Yeah, we by spreading the word and being able to, even if you have only $1, man, just put something in, because this goes to like an entire force of people that have been involved in making great art throughout decades. I mean, like, Los Angeles has been the home of creatives for a very long time. This is the foundation of a lot of America's entertainment here.
Yeah, it always been the capital of the entertainment, with music and movies.
Absolutely.
I was talking with friends, and we were really thinking, like, this time around, hit celebrities. I don't know if it's true, but they say that Steven Spielberg house burned. If that's true, that's like, I don't even know how many priceless props from movies, historical, there are there. But this is to say, if I was in that situation, and I've been considering moving out of LA for a little bit right now, if I was in that situation, that my house burned down and I had to rebuild, and I'm not sure that I would do it here. Yeah. And so if you multiply this for all the people in the industry, both movies and music, that this affected, this might be the end of LA as we know it, where a lot of these people are probably going to say, fuck this shit, I'm out. Between, between earthquakes and mismanagement, and we still have, again, the highest taxes that is in the nation, the highest gas, the highest grocery, highest everything. I don't even know how many extra taxes I pay on my car alone for being here with this car. It's like kind of crazy. So if you put two and two together, what I'm saying is I hear a lot of malcontent. While before, when I moved here, you wanted to be in LA. LA was the place to be. It was, I couldn't wait and everything. And now in the past 5 years or something, it kind of became, I want to get out, So
if you were, where do you think you would go?
I have been considering, we have been looking around, because I was looking to buy a property, a house. And again, I'm not sure if I want to do it here for these reasons. It would probably be either Florida, because there I have a lot of friends, and there's also colleagues and a lot of a healthy music community and music business, and or Nashville.
Yeah. My parents live in Florida, and they're kind of used to the whole hurricane thing, but I'm not gonna lie, it gets worse. It seems to be getting worse over time. They're just stronger storms, and I mean, we're already talking about politics, so I'll just even say it.
Yeah, no, it's.
You can't talk about this without talking about politics either. But it's, I mean, like, climate change is a real thing, and it's an X factor to this stuff. It's not the full on reason, but it is definitely, it doesn't help. So
no, it doesn't.
It comes down to, again, mismanagement and governmental officials that have prioritize different things over the needs of the people and emergency situations, and being able to, like, you have to be, if you're going to have a city, you have to be able to make sure that that city can stand on its 2 feet and not take the gamble that there's going to be an event that puts it to its knees like this. That's just, in my mind, that's common sense. But
yeah, I know. I think everybody's, and also especially when you know there is a high probability that it will happen because it happened before to a lesser extent.
Yeah, I mean, if it were me, I probably would choose Nashville.
Yeah, that looks actually the best choice. Also, because at the end of the day, it's more of a it's most like I can do my job pretty much, at this point, especially, I have my clients, I have my connections, I have my everything. And so it's more like for Bella where she likes it to be when she wants to be. And
of course,
we were mostly thinking about like having, a little bit of land with animals and whatever, and have it like, a different type of lifestyle than the city, even because we don't really use the city as other would. We're not party people. We don't go out. We don't drink. We don't go clubbing. We don't, yeah, sure, you're going to lose a couple of events, but also nothing stops me from being here for months a year. And,
right.
And that's easy. That's very easy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but, going back to what you said, I think we are in a time in which I know we in the music business, we tend to, the smart people at least, not to go into politics. But I think we are at a time in which we can't not talk about it at all, because these things affects our life, like our everyday life. It's not a matter of being like how it was some time ago. You hear it on the TV, but at the end of the day, your life was the same, right? Today, it's so directly affects us every single day that,
yes.
It doesn't matter what's up. We can talk about music. We can talk about cars. We can talk about anything else. Everything is so directly linked to politics because it affects so directly the decisions they are making our life.
I want to put it out there, David, that if you end up relocating and you are rebuilding a studio, feel free to call me. I'll come out and I'll help you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Because I understand that even a decision like that now is more. It's like not the decision you want to be making right now.
Yeah,
but it is on the map now. It's on the table, and I see it as, if I don't do this now, kind of thing. It's like, when might I get the next opportunity to be able to still stay safe, and then still have everything to move forward. So it's like you're making you're stuck between a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah.
It's like you're okay, but it's like, what the chances of this happening again? You can't afford it. You can't afford it. It's quite simply unacceptable. So being in LA is just a giant risk now. And
it is.
We basically announced to the world that this is not where you really want to spend your 50 years, moving forward.
Yeah.
Because that's what people did. They had their entire livelihoods, and now it's all gone in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And it really just shows us, like Mother Nature, it's a force to be reckoned with, and you just can't. It's that arc above us that it's like we can't control it, and it will come and it will destroy and renew again. Nature is beautiful, but nature is also very ugly sometimes, and this is just one of those examples of that. And
and I think human beings make the mistake of thinking either, oh, that's not going to happen to me, or we are above that, or we can control it. We can't control it.
Right.
If something, and these are the kind of events that I think should put us in perspective and say, we should be a little more careful. We do, and we handle things.
Yeah, I mean, we work really hard with most of us, not a lot of a safety net. Because everything we put into our career. It's our equipment, it's what we use to create, and it's the tools that we have. And luckily, like, as creatives, if we're still around to tell the tale, we always have our creativity, we always have ourselves to be able to conjure up something new out of nothing. That's what's beautiful about being a creative. But if you were to, if you did this to Da Vinci, too, I'm sure he would be very demotivated, and he would have questioned continuing doing what he did. So
because at the end of the day, many of us, and this is not just in our businesses, everywhere. It takes so long to build and so little to destroy, and this is exactly what we faced here in LA these days. I also have people who bought a condo and they were been working on it for 2 years, and they were about to be ready finally to rent it, and it burned down. So imagine, like, there are also like situations like this. So it's absolutely crazy. It's really awful. And but yeah, you said it. Like, for us, we still have our brain and our creativity, but many of us, me included, I took years and years and years to build my collection. If I was to lose it, it would be like a big hit,
Absolutely.
And this definitely puts things in perspective.
Yeah, it's not. And for those people who say, this is, I'm sure, a very small minority of people, but you have headphones and you have a laptop. Well, it's not the same. It's not the same. Yeah, you might be able to get stuff done in a pinch, but it's all that comes around with being in an environment. I mean, studios.
It's the difference. It's always the difference between doing this professionally and doing this for your own music only, which you can probably get away with your laptop and your headphones because you have no deadlines, you have no limits of time.
Right.
And most important, you don't have anybody else other than yourself to approve it, right? This is one part. And everybody will bring the example that at this point we all heard, and Andrew Sheps, which is a friend of mine, by the way. He was on my channel a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. He did it. And he explained until blue in the face what he meant and how he did it. Because, of course, he said like he did. Yeah, because at the beginning, when you start your career, you're probably not going to have a room like this. You're not going to have like tens of thousands of dollars speakers and a room that is tuned, built, isolated, and all that. So between your crappy speakers and, in a crappy room and headphones, with the technology that we have today, you might be better off in it. When you do this professionally, it's a whole different ballgame. Like, we have the artist that has to approve, the A&R, the girlfriend, the grandmother, the dog of the girlfriend, they have to approve. Like, it's a whole different ballgame doing this professionally. And besides the fact that we have our things and our routines and our way to do things, yes, of course, could I mix in a different studio? Yeah, I would be slower, probably a little worse, and it would be taking more revisions, more tweaking, and it would be different. But a lot of my clients come to me for a specific sound. And my specific sound involves this. All the iron there is in this room. And, could I do it without? I don't think so. I don't think so. But let's assume it would be theoretically possible. It would take me so long to recreate even just one chain that I have right now. And all I have to do is just click the button and run a track through it. And so at this point, like, the business is not going to work anymore, because I give you an example. December is always a busy month for me. And I was caught up with all the mixes and all the masters like December 23rd. And I was like, hey, Bella, we're going to have like, a few days for holidays. We're doing this. Night on the 23rd, a client of mine, a big band, industrial band, they're called Blitz Union, which they are friends also. They were like, hey, David, we have this song to be mixed. We need it for December 31st. It's for Eurovision. Please, 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 please do it for us. And I was like, well, okay, of course I'm going to, because this is our business, right? We don't have a 9 to 5, but also we cannot plan things because shit like this happens. And,
right.
That turned out to be a 241 tracks mix. And I had 5 days to do it, and so you realize that if something delays my process, that deal would have been gone, and the next one too, and the next one too. So until you actually do it this professionally, day in and out, you don't understand the minutia of, things that for other people might seem a detail. Like, well, it takes you an hour longer. It takes me an hour longer. You know how destructive that is for us doing, this? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, every second really does count. It's the efficiency of your workflow. When you are talking about this stuff, the biggest thing I see about it is the elimination to resistance in that. And when you have, high quality gear in your studio like you do, it makes your job a little easier because you don't have to do as much in order to get a better sound. So it's and your tools very well, right? So it's not just the sound, and it's also how you've configured it. It's how you've decided to use it in a chain. So it's a lot of that, and that minutia you're mentioning is evident in that. So I mean, that's why you get the work that you do on a consistent basis, because they know not only is it that you're bringing to them a sound that they might be looking for, but it's also that they trust you that David will get it done, and he'll get it done in a very reasonable amount of time that works for people's timelines, right? So
absolutely, there's something that I always say as an advice to a coming engineer. I always tell them, like, try to deliver more than what you're asked to, and if you can deliver more, deliver it faster.
Yep.
And that alone will make a world of difference, against your competition, so to speak.
Right.
Speaking of which, like, I don't know if you followed it, but one of my latest thing that I got here in the studio is the Pro Patch from Wolf Audio, and this thing is, I mean, of course, it's not cheap. This is not for home studio people that have like 2-3 pieces of gear. It's expensive in a way, but in the same time, is a bargain because of what it does and what it offers. And I understand that for people that are not in the business, talking about a $9,000 patch bay, it's crazy, but it's not. Because if it was $15,000, I would buy it anyway, because of how much time it saves me and how much better is my workflow with that alone. And it's a freaking patch bay, and it's crazy how I remember a Wolf on their IG, because mine is the first one that was in LA, and I'm helping them with the software, making it better. So we're always talking, and they were saying, they posted something saying, oh, you know what this patch does? And I said, yeah, it makes life better. That's literally what it does for me. I don't even think about it as it does this, like the technicality of it. I just think of the result of having it. Just, I can go to dinner tonight instead of staying here, another 4 hours.
It's that price versus cost argument, high price, but what is it saving you in the long run, right? So, I mean, now think about it this way, right? The people who have worked a life of trying to optimize their cost, and now it's gone, and it's gone for forever. That is complete utter destruction of an entire career. Because when you get to that point and your tolerance for risk becomes lower, because when you're starting off, I mean, yeah, you might start with the laptop and some headphones and an interface, and it might be low price, but it's kind of high cost because you have to spend more time, but you're learning, you still have time to work on your skills, right? When you get to a level like yourself, or God forbid, like Bob Clearmountain, like you have no tolerance for wasting time, because the kind of clientele that you bring in have a certain standard, a certain demand for that, and they're willing to pay a pretty penny for it, because they know what it means for them in their way of looking at costs, right? Your price versus the cost of what it took to get a fantastic sounding record, or even something like this, like Hans Zimmer, like you were saying about giving more. A good friend of mine, he used to work at with relationships to Hans Zimmer too, and he said that they would take the dialogue of whatever their buddy's film was, and they would actually mix the dialogue while adding the film score and give it back to the director, and they would love it, and they would usually always get the gig, right? So it's like overing deliver. It's like part of this, exactly what you're saying. And analog is it's very unique, because like everything is always just a little bit different, and it's in the moment, and you can actually perform like the fifth member of the band, so to speak. And
Absolutely.
that's sort of that, man, dude, it's like that's irreplaceable, man. Because again, it's just, that is your value that you're adding on top of all the things that you just said. So
yeah, it's funny because many of my clients, especially for rock, metal, industrial, and stuff like that, I always, if you notice, I almost never call myself a producer. I'm a mix and mastering engineer, right? Because I have the utmost respect for the word producer, and producer for me is the guy that makes it happen, that make the decision. What direction are we going? It's not the beat maker, right? Now there's this debate today. It's not a debate. It's a misuse of the word to call beat maker producers without offending anybody. But it's just the truth. But that's most of the time what I do at the end of the day. Maybe I do just additional production, but that's even just with the mix that I just told you about, like with Blitz Union, the bass players are like, hey, this part, it's kind of thin. We feel it's kind of empty. We know you're going to take care of it. And that's not with the mix. It's like, all right, let's add this kind of synth. Let's change the snare. That's what I did. So many times I find myself into this position. And of course, there are projects in which I will 100% call myself a producer, whether it's like, for example, Bella stuff, or right now I'm doing Monty Pittman album. So Ministry guitarist, previously Madonna's guitarist, and I'm doing everything for him. So in this case, yeah, I have no problem calling myself a producer, because, Monty drops the demos, and then from there on out, it's just me. I do everything from deciding the drum pattern and rearranging everything, and deciding where do we record, what to record, how we record it, and all that. So yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, again, efficiency in this case is even more important than ever. So
yeah, you grow as a engineer or a producer, and you find out what works for you. A lot of people, when I teach on the subject, they always look for like some sort of silver bullet to these things, and it's hard to give them a straightforward answer, because every studio is custom. There isn't like hey, just copy this and paste and this will work for you, and it's like it never works out that way. Every room has a different dimension, and there's like so many factors to the things that matter in a studio, and you really just have to prioritize like what works for you. What is the intention of what it is that you're trying to create, and on a consistent basis. and then formulate like what your equipment serves in its rightful place. So you're absolutely right. And when man, my heart goes really out to everybody that's in Los Angeles. And I know what it's like to also own a studio. You know what it's like to own a studio. These things are irreplaceable. If my studio in my city, probably more risk to something like flooding, because of the Atlantic is right there. So if New York doesn't handle its own issues in that sense, my studio would be the first to go in those situations. So we pray that the city is handling what it's supposed to, and I hope that other cities look at Los Angeles and say, maybe we shouldn't take certain things for granted, and maybe we should actually prioritize infrastructure, because otherwise, like, you've just quite literally took a Mecca out, and that happened in a week. A week, and like we'll probably see to the extent the damages, and it's going to be colossal. I just know it. It's going to be colossal, and it's going to make people really, I think, hopefully pay attention to what they should.
Hopefully for real, because this wasn't, it wasn't because one thing was missing or there was a switch that was off. This was a mismanagement for years and years and years, and leaving things behind and not repairing and not cutting here, hoping that will never happen again, and then it happens, and you're completely, totally, utterly unprepared for it. Yeah, and this is what happened. Yeah. So hopefully, at least it will help. Other people making.
I want to remind people to. Look into Music Cares. The link will be in the description below.
Yes.
And donate whatever you can, just to help each other, because like David said, the music industry is there. There's no unions, there's no pensions, nothing like that in our industry. So we really only have each other to lean on, and hopefully maybe people will be more organized about stuff like this, because this is a huge loss to the entire industry. And I really do hope the best for you, David. I pray for you, every single second, to make sure that you and Bella don't have to experience that kind of loss. And like I said, also, if you're relocating, after this is over,
I will definitely take you up on that offer. Then you will regret saying it.
I will. I promise you, I'll enjoy it. Pay me in beer, and we'll fine.
Nice. Will do.
Oh, well, thank you, everybody, and David, of course, thank you so much for the time spent. I hopefully, again, let's pray for the best.
We'll keep in touch.
Yes, definitely. We will. Surely will.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for everybody listening to the podcast. And again, thank you for having me again. Please, let's do it anytime you want.
Sure thing. I look forward to it. All right.
Have a good one. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.